My transphobic teacher kept misgendering me in class, so I called him a predator in front of everyone. I'm transgender, and by the time I reached 5th grade, most people at my school were pretty respectful about it. Teachers used my correct pronouns, classmates treated me normally, and everything was going smoothly. Except for one teacher who seemed to make it his personal mission to humiliate me every single day. This guy would constantly emphasize the wrong pronouns when referring to me, drawing out the word hey with such exaggerated emphasis that the entire class would turn and stare. It wasn't accidental, it was deliberate and cruel, designed to make me feel uncomfortable and singled out in front of my peers. Every time I contributed to class discussions or answered questions, he'd find a way to work in those emphasized wrong pronouns. He has an interesting perspective, or maybe he can explain this to the class. The way he'd stretch out that one word made it clear he was trying to embarrass me. I'd tried talking to him privately about it, but he'd just brush me off with excuses about biological reality and traditional values. It became obvious that reasoning with him wasn't going to work, so my friend group and I started planning something more creative. We decided to coordinate our response for maximum impact. The next time he pulled his usual stunt, we'd all react in a way that would make him the uncomfortable one for a change. The opportunity came during a discussion about historical events. I raised my hand to contradict one of his points, and right on cue, he said with that same exaggerated emphasis, "Well, he has a good point there." That's when my entire friend group burst out laughing simultaneously. Not just quiet giggles, but loud, genuine laughter that immediately caught the attention of everyone else in the room. Soon the whole class joined in, creating this wave of laughter that completely derailed his lesson. He looked absolutely flabbergasted, clearly not understanding why his usual tactic had suddenly become comedy gold for 35th graders. "What's so funny?" he demanded, looking around the room with growing frustration. I tried to answer him, but I was laughing too hard to get coherent words out. The absurdity of the situation, this grown man being so obsessed with a child's gender identity that he'd turned it into unintentional comedy, was just too perfect. As the laughter finally died down, I could see him getting more flustered and defensive. Then he pulled out what we'd been waiting for, the classic inappropriate question that teachers like him always resort to when challenged. "What's in your pants, kid?" he said, thinking he'd found some kind of gotcha moment that would embarrass me into silence. But we'd anticipated this exact response. I slowly put on my most confused and disturbed expression, looked him straight in the eye, and said clearly, "That sounds like something a predator would ask." His face went bright red. "What? No, it isn't," he sputtered, realizing too late that he'd walked directly into our trap. That's when I delivered the final blow. "Then why would you need that information if you weren't thinking about inappropriate things involving a child?" The classroom went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop as 30 kids and one very uncomfortable teacher processed what had just happened. He'd been caught asking invasive, inappropriate questions about a minor's body, and now everyone knew it. From that day forward, he used my correct pronouns every single time. No more exaggerated emphasis, no more deliberate misgendering, no more attempts to humiliate me in front of the class. Apparently, the threat of being labeled as someone who asked children inappropriate questions about their bodies was enough to cure his sudden pronoun confusion. The best part was that word spread quickly through the school about what had happened. Other teachers heard the story, and suddenly everyone was very careful about treating students with basic respect and dignity. Sometimes standing up to bullies, even adult ones, requires turning their own tactics against them. He wanted to make me uncomfortable, so we made him face the consequences of his inappropriate behavior in the most public way possible.